I'm going to start us with the sponsors. Ted said he'll be getting back tonight.
Oh.
So he sent me an email. Okay. All right, our learning sponsors for the year, Dr. Paul Koningsberg, in memory of his brother, Dr. Sam Koningsberg, Shimon Reuven ben Labush, and Ed Goldberg's cousin, Nissen Hara, Nissen ben Fardosa. Paula and Bob Bromberg, in memory of their dear friend Julian Smith, Yehuda ben Yisrael. Malka Nan, in memory of her family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Israel David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. The many friends of Dr. Marvin Blush, Moshe Shalom ben Yitzchak Halevi, friends of Toby Peres, Sarah Tova bat Yisrael Dov, friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef, friends of Avi Gitler, Avramea ben Shimon, Cheryl Schur, her children and grandchildren, in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Israel ben Harav Akiva. A month of learning by Lynn Rappaport, in memory of her husband, Avram ben Sion HaKohen. A week of learning sponsored by Marcia and Gary Schrager, in memory of her mother, Miriam Yentabas Baruch. And today also a day of learning sponsored by Rabbi Moshe Kranzler, in memory of his mother-in-law, Roiza Bas Harav Yitzchak. In the Shemas Heaven Aliyah, Krenker Afir Velti Yashir Shem Matzliah, and the Chol B'nai Israel, a good Geben Shtia.
Amen.
Okay. All right. So Erwin and Marvin, before we jump in, just a check for next week on the time. We're suggesting 8:30 in the morning. Okay.
No problem.
There will be 2 days. I told Harvey I'm going to be a little bit out of town and I don't know about the connections. So I'm assuming Wednesday and Thursday I might not be able to teach. Okay.
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 What time is the minion going to be next week?
Minion, I'm assuming is 7:30. Still.
No more 8 o'clock minion?
I don't think so. I don't think so. That's what I'm guessing. I haven't heard otherwise, and we'll see, I assume, in the bulletin when it comes out this afternoon. Okay. So let's go back to our Gemara. And I want to go back by reviewing on the bottom of 60A1, if you're using Art Scroll, the picture opposite note number 6 or 7. Okay. So looking at that picture, we see what we were talking about as a ladder leading from the floor of the courtyard up to the second floor where there is a gallery or mirpeset, and it's partly closed in. Okay. Now, if we were to say that expanse that's open is more than 10, right, tfachim, okay, that's one thing. If, however, there's some sort of a partition in that area, okay, that would be something else, right? So that picture gives us a sense, okay, a little bit about what we're trying to deal with as we continue in the Gemara, okay? So using that as a review, all right? On the bottom of Nun Tet Amud Beis, the last line, okay, it said, V'hamar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman raises the question in the name of Shmuel. Anshe Chatzer v'Anshe Mirpeset, the 2 floors, those living on the ground floor where the floor of the courtyard is, and those living on the second floor where the gallery or porches, sheshachachu velo irvu, that they forgot and did not make a eruv with them, an eruv chatzeros, right? Im yesh lifneihem daka arba'a, if there is there a partition, okay, of that is such, right, that it's 4 tfachim high, eina oseret. It does not make any prohibition for the residents below, okay, on the first floor, okay, to carry items in and out, okay, into the chatzer. Ve'im lav oseret. But it seems that if they, right, okay, and if not, all right, if they did not make the an opening there in the okay, in the second floor balcony, so to speak, okay, then it would seem that it would restrict the people on the first floor. Hacha b'mayas kinen, what are we talking about? B'delo gavoa mirpeset asara, a situation where we're saying, okay, that the balcony, the gallery, is not 10 tfachim above the floor of the chatzer. Ve'ilo gavoa mirpeset asara, and if it's not, right, 10 tfachim above that floor, kika avid daka, when they do, or were they to go ahead and make this partition, mai have, what's the difference? What's the result? That's where we stopped yesterday. But the Gemara now proceeds to explain to us, b'megufefet ad eser amot, that some part of that partition, okay, which is encloses the balcony or the gallery, does reach a height higher than the 10 tfachim that we're talking about. Migufefet ad asar amot. The kevan da'avid daka, that since they made this partition, what happens? Istaluke istaluk le'mehach. It's as if they have removed themselves from access to the floor of the chatzer. That's the implication. Okay? And so therefore, in that situation, okay, right, they would not restrict the people down below because they're as if they're considering themselves totally separate. Okay? Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. And now we continue, again, further clarification of this discussion. Okay, Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel, Kotel, Sheritzpa Besulamot. Okay, let's say we have a wall, okay, and what has been done, we don't have a diagram here, which would have been helpful, of a number of ladders up against this wall. Okay, Afilu Beitar Me'asar. Okay, says the Gemara. All right, in this case, right, all right, we're saying, right, that the situation is such, okay, that the wall is more than 10 amos, right? Torat mechitza alav. In that situation, these ladders then, okay, continue to act in the status of a partition. Now, Rami le Rav Bruna, the Rav Yehuda, b'ma'atzarta, the Bei Rav Chanina. Okay, since we see that the Rav Yehuda said this, okay, he's going to be challenged by Rav Bruna, this, right? And it happens the challenge occurred when they were in the wine press, okay, right, of Rav Chanina. Mi Amar Shmuel Torat Mechitza Alav. Did Shmuel really say that these ladders continue to be a kind of partition? V'ha'amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. But didn't Rav Nachman say in the name of Shmuel, Anshe Mirpesed v'Anshe Chatzer, people living on the second floor, or as well as people who live on the first floor, Sheshachachu, if they forgot, Velo Irvu, and they forgot and did not make a joint Eruv, Im Yesh Lefaneha Daka Arba'a, if there is a partition, okay, that is 4 tfachim, Eina Oseret, okay, it does not limit. It does not, those on top don't limit the behaviors, the carrying of those in the bottom. V'im lav, and if not, okay, Oseret, right, then it will limit them. Hacha b'mayaskin, what are we talking about? De lo gavoa mirpeset asara, in a situation where that porch, that the balcony, is not higher than 10, okay, tfachim. Ve'ilo gavoa marpeset asara, okay, and if they do make, okay, and if that the mirpeset is not higher than 10 tfachim, ki avi daka, when they make this partition, mai have, what are we talking about then? The megufefet ad eser amot, that the balcony is closed in at least some point, okay, 10 amos high above the floor of the chatzer. The kevan da avi daka istaluke istalik mehacha. That's once they made this partition, it's as if they've closed off their entire balcony and area, and therefore it's as if they have refrained, separated themselves from them. Okay. Now, continuing with the Gemara, okay, we have a story of a particular incident, right? Hinu b'nei Kakonai. They were residents of the town of Kakunai, right? The Ate Lekame de Rav Yosef. They came before Rav Yosef. Amru, and they said to him, Havlan Gavra de la'arev lan ma'atai. Send us a person who is going to make an eruv for our community, for our city. Okay. That was what they were asking. Okay. Now, what happens as we continue the story? Okay. Amar le'Abaye, Rav Yosef chooses Abaye to send him. Zil, go. Arev laho, make an eruv for them. But he gave also another, let's call it for the moment, another criteria. V'chaze delo mitzavcha ala b'bei midrasha. But see to it that there's no complaints, no crying out, okay, in the Beit Midrash. In other words, that no one is going to challenge, do it properly, so that no one is going to challenge, basically, your perspective, all right? And they won't complain. What happens now? And this is where the story continues. Azal, Abai went, Chazal lahanhu bate the petiche lenahara. He went and saw that there was a section of the town where the houses were enclosed, I'm going to say, walled in towards the other side of the town, but their opening was towards the river. Okay? Now, I'm Fortunately, Art Scroll does not give us a diagram here of that. Koren did. Okay, so the only opening, okay, is only one opening from the riverside going into this section of the town. That the rest of that section is totally separate from the remainder of the town. Okay. Now, what is Abaye going to do? That is the basic question. Okay. Now, right? This is what he saw. Amar, all right? So this is the thought process I'm suggesting that Abaye goes to, even though it says he said, okay? This is what he, right? Hani lahavi shi'ur lamata. Those in that section, let's call it the seaside or the riverside section, okay, can be a remainder, a separate section, okay? Excluded is what Art Scroll is using, which is a valid translation for the rest of the town. Okay, so do you include them in the Eruv or not? Next step, Hadar. Abaye comes back and thinks again. Amar ein ma'arvin et kula. Okay, we have a statement, okay, a Mishnah that teaches us elsewhere that in that kind of a situation, since apparently there's a separation, we cannot do an Eruv for the entire town. Okay. Tznan. Why? Because a Mishnah teaches, Miklal, from the general principle, the Ibai le'eruve, matse ma'arve. Okay. Right. So he's saying to him, okay, that it seems to be that therefore that by doing so, these residents have excluded themselves, all right, from being included in the Eruv because they're totally blocked away from them. Ela i'avid laho kavai, says Abaye to himself. But if I were to have them make some sort of windows in the wall, the iba'u le'eruve derech chalanot matzu ma'arave. Because if they choose then, if they want to make an Eruv with the rest of the town, they can make it through these windows and be included in their Eruv. Hadar Amar. Again, Abaye reconsiders and says, Lo bai. Okay. Maybe in this case, he says, they don't need the windows. Daharaba bar abuha, ma'arev la lekula mechoza, arsaita, arsaita. Why? He says, because maybe they don't need the windows because we've got an example, okay, where Rabba bar abuha made an Eruv for the entire town of Mechoza, even though there were ditches, okay, separating the roadways, ditches in the roadways, okay, separating parts of the town. Yet he made an Eruv for the entire city altogether. Mishum Pera. These ditches were there, right? Okay. In other words, the ditches were from one neighborhood to another neighborhood because these ditches were there for the oxen. The kol chad vechad havi shiur lechavre. And in that way, each neighborhood became a exclusion for its neighbor. Va'afal gav the iba'u la'aruve bahade hadade. And even though they may have wanted to make an Eruv one to another, lo matzu ma'arve. They did not come. We didn't find them making this Eruv together. Again, Abai reconsiders. Hadar Amar, Lo Dami. Well, maybe those situations between the town of Kakunai and Mechoza aren't parallel. Hatam, there, Ibai Aruve Derech Gagot. If they wanted, they could have made an Eruv altogether using their roofs. Vahani Loma Arve. Okay, and here, all right, they're not making an Eruv. Hilkach Na'avdan Kavai. Therefore, maybe we still need to make windows. Again, Abai reconsiders. Hadar Amar. Kave Nami Lo Bai. Maybe the windows aren't necessary. Dahahu Be Tivna. Why? Because there's another example, okay, of a storehouse for straw. Dahavale Mar Bar Pupadita. Okay, mi Pumpadita. That storehouse existed to Mar from the son of Papadasa from Pumpadita, right? Veshavya Shior the Pumpadita. And the storehouse, the straw storehouse, was not included in the Eruv for the city of Pumpadita. It was kept as an exclusion. Now, Amar, Hainu da Amar Limar. That must be all the reason, he said, that the master, namely Rav Yosef, okay, told him to give it a lot of thought and consideration. Chaze de lo mitzavat ala b'bei midrasha. Why he said, see to it that they don't complain and yell about it in the Beit Midrash, that they could have raised all sorts of other arguments and questions in what he was doing. Okay. Having finished that story, Gemara goes on to the next part of our Mishnah. Ela im kein asa chutzala ke'ir chadasha. That the Mishnah said clearly that one can't make an Eruv unless there's a population living outside that area of 50 inhabitants, men, women, and children. Tanya Amar Rabbi Yehuda. So as a Braita, says Rabbi Yehuda says, Ir echat haita b'Yehuda v'chad shashama. There was a city in what would have been the tribal area of Judah. That city is called Chadsha, or Chadasha, right? V'hayu ba chamishim diurim, and it had 50 inhabitants, anashim v'nashim v'taf, men, women, and children. Uba hayu misha'arim chachamim, and the sages, he said, would use that as a measure. Vehi haita shi'ur, and this was what was the excluded section from the larger public town. Now, Ibayalahu. So the Gemara now says, they've asked the following question. Chadsha mahu? What is the law in regarding this town, this, let's call it suburb for the moment of Chadsha? Chadsha, ki hechi da'ahi, de'ihi havya shiur, l'gdola. Okay, we could say that perhaps Chadsha then serves as the excluded section from the larger part of the town. Gdola nami havya shiur l'katana. Okay, and likewise we can say that the larger section of the town serves as the excluded section for the smaller section. So each could have its own Eruv. Ele ke'ein chadasha. Okay, but we're saying no, we have to be, if something is similar, right, to chadasha. That's what we're trying to find out. Okay, what is its status? Rav Huna v'Rav Yehuda ba Okay, Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda disagree. Chad Amar Bai Shiur. One says that it does require a area of an excluded section. V'chad Amar Lo Bai Shiur. And the other says it does not need or require an excluded section. Okay. Coming back now to the Rabbi Shimon, who disagreed with Rabbi Yehuda in terms of the size of the section. Okay, Rabbi Shimon says, Omer shlosh chatzerot v'chulei, that it had to be, Rabbi Shimon, not 50 men, women, and children living there, but 3 courtyards with 2 residences in each courtyard. Okay? Amar Rav Chama bar Guria, Amar Rav. Rav Chama bar Guria, in the name of son of, right? It's in the name of Rav, says halacha ka Rabbi Shimon, that the law is like Rabbi Shimon. Okay, there can be fewer people. Rabbi Yitzchak Amar, afilu bayit echad v'chatzer achad. Rabbi Yitzchak is even more lenient and says it can even be simply 1 courtyard, okay, or 1 house in 1 courtyard. So Gemara questions, Chatzer Achat Salkadata? You really think 1 courtyard, that's sufficient? Ela Ema, but rather I would say, Bayat Echad B'Chatzer Achat. 1 house in 1 courtyard. Amar Le, he said to Abai, the Rav Yosef, the Rabbi Yitzchak, Gamra Osvara. This view of Rabbi Yitzchak, okay, this most lenient view that all you needed, okay, for a shiur was 1 house in 1 courtyard. Was this something he's learned from his teachers, Gemara, Osvara, or was it simply his own logic? Amarle, and Rav Yosef responds, Mai nafkalan mina. What difference does it make in this case from us? Right? Amarle, he said to him, Gemara gamur, zemurta tehe. Okay? Abai responds, if he learned it from his teachers, that's no song. It's no light matter. Okay? It still needs explanation. And that's where we finish this particular piece of Gemara. Okay. Continuing now with our new Mishnah. Okay. We come back to our discussion of Erev, okay, of Tchumim, okay, in this Mishnah. Okay. Now, I want us to think of the, again, following image, okay? The householder, the man of the house, is outside in the field, okay? All right? That's one option. And therefore, he's sending a servant or his son to make his Shabbos domicile, okay? Now, the question in our mind is going to be as follows. Is the location of that Shabbos domicile, okay, between the man and his house, or is it beyond his house? Let's go into our Mishnah now as we see what the discussion is going to be and the Gemara. Mi shahaya b'mizrach, if he was in the east, v'amar libno, and said to his son, arev li b'ma'arav, make an erev for me in the west. Okay? Now, right? Or let's take the other example. B'ma'arav, the householder is in the west. V'amar livno arev li b'mizrach. And he says to his son, make me an erev in the east. Im yesh himeno uleveto alpayim amma. If there is, I'm going to say, from him to his house, 2,000 amma, ula eruvo yoter mikan, and for the eruv is further beyond that. Okay? So the house is within the 2,000 amma, and then the Shabbos domicile is beyond that. Mutar leveto, he is permitted to go to his house. Va'asur la'eruvo, but he is forbidden to go to the place of the eruv. La'eruvo alpayim amma. Let's say that where the boy established the eruv was within 2,000 amma of where the householder was located. Ulavaito yater mikan, and his house was further beyond that. Okay, asur leveito, he's forbidden to go to his house. Umutar la'eruvo, then he's permitted to go to the place of the eruv. Okay. Now, by the way, notice that the language was flipped there a little bit. Okay? Okay. Going on. Hanoten et eruvo be'ibura shal'ir. The householder now establishes his Shabbos residence, his eruv, on the outskirts of the city. Okay? Now, where exactly do we mean when we say outskirts? That's going to be an issue. We'll come back to it momentarily. Lo asav v'lo klum. It's as if he did nothing, says the Mishnah. Okay? Right? Because theoretically, we're going to raise the question, if he was in his home when he made his eruv, right, on the outskirts of the city, what good is that? Wouldn't the entire city be considered his reshus, more than just his house? And shouldn't he then be able to go 2,000 amma beyond the city limit? Maybe that's why the Mishnah is saying to us, it's like he's done nothing, right? Not no chutz l'tchum. If he put it, however, his eruv outside of the tchum of the city, afilu amma achat, even if it was a single amma beyond that tchum, what happens? Ma shenishka hu mafsid. What he's gained, he's actually loses in the opposite direction. Okay? So what he's gained by getting that section, he's got his 2,000 amma, okay? Then he's got his dalet amos of the eruv, so he can get to the eruv. And great, he can go another 2,000 amma in that same direction. But he's lost from the other side in the town. So, Gemara raises the following question. Okay? So we talked about the householder being in the east or being in the west. Gemara, Kasakadatach, you're of the opinion, Lemizrach, when it says to the east, Lemizrach Beito, it's east of his house. Lema'arav Beito, to the west, we say it's the west of his house. Hold on. Bishlema heimenu uleveto alpayim amma. That's acceptable if from him to his house it's 2,000 amma. Ula eruvo yater mikan. And to the place where the eruv is, it's further beyond there. Mishkachet la demate levete. We find then that he can reach his house. Velo mate la eruvo. But he's not able to reach the eruv location. Elahemenu ula-eruvo al-payam ama. But rather, if it's from him to the Eruv 2,000 amma, ulaveto yater mikan, and his house is further beyond that, hechi mishkachat la.
How's he going to do it?
Right? How we find that kind of a situation? Amar Rav Yitzchak, says Rav Yitzchak, misvarat lemizrach beito. Do you really consider that when it says to the east, it's to the east of his house? The ma'arav beito, and to the west, it's the west of his house? No. The mizrach, when it says to the east, the mizrach beno,
Wait about his
it's to
son
the
is.
east of his son. The ma'arav, to the west, the ma'arav beno, he's on the west of his son. Now, Rabba bar Rav Shila Amar gives a different statement. Afilu tema the mizrach baito. You could even say, when we say to the east, it's to the east of his, to the house. Ula ma'arav the ma'arav beito, and to the west of the house. Kigon the kai beite ba'al kosona. That's so long, okay, if the question is the house is on a diagonal, okay, to his house. If the place of the Eruv is on a diagonal, okay, from the house. Okay, now Art Scrolls diagrams, okay, I'm not sure if the diagram on 60B1 opposite number 3 is the best, okay, or the number 4. It could be that the diagonal actually in Rashi, the diagram in Rashi, actually, okay, is could be a little better. In any case, that is what his suggestion is. So you have the area of the diagonal, if that's going to be longer than the other. Now, back to our Mishnah. Hanotein eruvo betoch ivura, one who made his eruv in the outskirts of the town. Okay? Now, the Gemara said, chutz l'tchum sal kedata. Do you think he made his eruv outside the tchum? Is that possible? Ela ema chutz le'ibura. Rather, you should say that he made his eruv, okay, outside the town, but outside the outskirts. Namely, remember we had a Mishnah that said that at times a town had a karpaf. Okay, so maybe that 70 amma area, he made his eruv just beyond the town's walls of the town, the 70 plus karpaf, and that's where he made his eruv. Now, what about the next part of our Mishnah? Masha niskar hu mafsid, where we said that what he gains, he loses from the other side. Masha niskar v'tulo, asks the Gemara. What he gains, okay, that's all he loses and nothing more? Vahatanya, but didn't it teach in a Braita? Hanotenet eruvo betoch ibura shel ir, one who places his eruv, okay, in the outskirts of the city. Lo asav lo klum, says this Braita. He's done nothing. Not no chutz leibura shel ir. If he put it outside of the outskirts of the city, afilu ama achat, even one single ama, mishtaker ota ama, he gains that one ama, umafsid et kol ha'ir kula, says the Braita, but he loses the entire city. Mipnei shemidat ha'ir ola lo b'midat hatchum. Why? Because ordinarily the measurement of the city would have been included in his measurement of the tchum. Okay. Now the Gemara continues. Lo kasha. He says, that's not a problem. Why? Kan shekalta midato b'chatzi ha'ir. So here we're saying that his measurement finished halfway through the city. Kan shekalta midato b'sof ha'ir. And here, on the other side, God bless you, his measurement continues till the end of the city. The Rabbi Idi. And this seems to follow the view of Rabbi Idi. The Amar Rabbi Idi, who says Rabbi Idi, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, in the name of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Haya Moded Uba, right? If he made his measure, and he came, V'kalta midato b'chatzi ha'ir, and the measurement ended up in the middle of the city. Ein lo ela chatzi ha'ir. All he has there then is half the city. Kalta midato b'sof ha'ir. If his measurement ended at the end of the city, right? Okay, if that's the case, right? In other words, his 2,000 amma ended at the end of the city or even further. Ne'eset lo ha'ir kula ka'arba amot. Then the whole city is considered like his Daled Amos, okay? His section. Umashlimin lo et hashar. And we fill in for him the rest, okay? Now, Amar Rav Idi, says Rav Idi, Ein elu ela divrei neviot. Okay, Rav Idi said, that's like words of prophecy. In other words, it's not reality. It's not realistic. Not the view. Mali kalta b'chatzi ha'ir. Mali kalta b'sof ha'ir. Okay? What's the difference if his tchum measures up to the middle of the city? What's the difference if his tchum measures to the end of the city? Nevertheless, that town, that city, okay, is his part of his Daled Amos, and therefore it should be counted towards his tchum. Amar Rava, travaihu tananehu. Okay, says Rava, we learn both rulings in another Mishnah, namely Anshe Ir Gedola Mahalchin et Kol Ir Ketana. The residents, those of a large town, can go all the way through the neighboring small town next door. Let's just roll over a little bit. Ve'ein Anshe Ir Ketana, but the residents of the smaller town, I want to call it the suburb if need be, Mahalchin et Kol Ir Gedola. Okay, but the residents of the small town, okay, cannot go the whole length of the large town. Ma'itama, what's the reasoning? Lav mishum dahani kalta midatan b'chatzi ha'ir. Isn't it not because their measurement ended in half the city? Vahani kalta midatan b'sof ha'ir. And these others, namely the big city residents, their measurement finished at the end of the city. Okay. Isn't that the case? Well, we'll see tomorrow when we continue. Okay. And we're suggesting we'll pick up approximately 9 tomorrow as well. Hopefully, we'll see, given how long it's taken these last days to do Hoshanas, we'll have to play it by ear a little bit. Okay? So everybody be well. Take care. All right. And I'll send a message to Andrea for the bulletin. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So long, everybody.
Take care.
Take care, buddies. Take care, Harvey. Feel good.
Hello.
Hi, honey.
Who was there?
Just a second, honey. Let me find where I am. For a minute. Okay. Okay. My job. I have breakfast.
Okay. I will have coffee with you.
Good.